Hey everyone, so in today's video we have probably my most insane speed review video that I do twice a year. I'm going to be reviewing every single product that I love from Sephora. These really are the best of the best products. Some makeup that I haven't even talked about yet or gotten around to talking about. In preparation for the Sephora Savings event, I'm going to be giving you guys demos and swatches. If you guys could see the amount of footage I have in Final Cut right now, you would either be impressed or absolutely terrified. I kind of view my channel like makeup journalism. I want to give you guys the nitty-gritty and really beautiful, innovative formulas. And on occasion, I do talk about products that I think are majorly overhyped. So if all of that sounds good, I would love for you to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you guys really appreciate all of that. This video is also very kindly sponsored by Sephora. I will have timestamps down below for you all just to make this video a little bit more digestible because again, it's gonna be a long one. But first, we do need to talk about the Sephora Savings Event details. So first of all, if you are a Rouge member, the savings event has already started for you. You can shop from the 14th through the 24th and get 20% off your purchase. It's unlimited use in-store and online. For VIB members, you get 15% off the 18th through the 24th. Again, it's unlimited use. And insiders get 10% off from the 18th through the 24th. The code is saved now. And again, I'm going to leave all the details of the Sephora Savings event down below for you all. Definitely make sure to sign up for the Beauty Insider program. I'll have a link down below for you guys to sign up. So we're just gonna kind of go in order of how I would put on a face of makeup. Here we have Complexion. I have two different primers here that are my top picks at Sephora. The first one is the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base, and the main reason I always go back and recommend this one is that it is a perfectly balanced product. It's not overly greasy, it's not overly glowy, it's going to get along with a lot of people, and I have personally found that I get the best performance out of my foundations when I am using this. It has a very soft blur to it on the skin. You know, you don't notice it right away, but when you stop using it, I notice like the pores just aren't as refined, my skin doesn't look quite as hydrated. I've told people before, like put it on one half of your face and not in the other, and you will notice the difference. A little bit goes a long way. I have repurchased this so many times, and I think if you really want the best performance out of your makeup products, this is a product that will definitely get you there. I have loved it for years. But if you do want something just to impart kind of a glow and hydration to your skin, that's when I would recommend the Merit Great Skin, their Instant Glow Serum. It's essentially a bi-phase serum, and what it does for me and my makeup is it imparts that little bit of glow and dewiness, especially on days when I just find my skin is a little sallow, it's looking a little flat. In general, if you have dry skin and you have not tried this, I highly recommend it. It just gives your skin a little bit of that bounce and that radiance back without it being a heavy, greasy product. Again, that balance with makeup is something that is really important to me, and this has that balance. So both of these are primers that I use all of the time. They're absolutely beautiful. Now let's talk about foundation. First, the foundation, or actually it's a skin tint that I am wearing, is a new favorite from this year. It is the Beauty Blender Bounce Skin Tint. What I have loved about this is just how beautifying it is. It has a beautiful blur to it. I really think if you like that more natural blurred look to your skin, you don't like anything super glowy, this just has a nice natural kind of middle of the road finish, and it applies really evenly and easily, which I love easy makeup and formulas that work with you rather than against you, and this is one that definitely nails it for me. Another foundation in a similar realm, the Kogan Do Aqua Foundation, one of the most expensive luxury products that I purchase, but the reason I consistently go back to it is that I do think it's one of the best formulas in the world. When I think of perfect photograph ready makeup that also looks good in person. That's what I think of when I think of the Cocondo Aqua. Honestly, that's really hard to do. I'm sure some of you guys can relate, but I don't want to sacrifice the way my skin looks in person for it looking good in a photo. That to me, it just doesn't make me feel confident. This is really buildable. It doesn't look heavy on the skin. It definitely leans more natural to dewy necessarily than mattifying, but I have recommended this to people with a bunch of different skin types, and some of my oily friends have come back and been like, this really worked for me. They just had to set it. If you are looking at luxury foundations, I think that this is one of the absolute best. Another more luxury foundation, either the Radiant Lifting from Shiseido or the original Synchro Skin. I love both. Think of these like insanely innovative longwear foundations. The self-refreshing quality of these essentially means that as you continue to wear them, they're not going to settle awkwardly, break up on the skin. The formulas refresh themselves as you're wearing them, so that essentially you're not worried about the awkwardness of a foundation as it continues to wear on throughout the day. Basically, which one that I think is going to work better for you is just based on skin type. If you do have more normal to dry skin, the Radiant Lifting, this is, I can't even tell you how many bottles I've bought of this. Probably 3. I mean, this is definitely my most used foundation consistently, really for the entire course of my channel. Like I bought this and repurchased it the most. It's But the Shiseido Skin Self-Refreshing Foundation, this one for combo to oily, it has this really beautiful natural finish on the skin. It doesn't look crackly or cakey. They blur the skin so beautifully. Just either one of these are top picks for me. A newer foundation launch that I have really enjoyed is the Glowy Super Skin Foundation from Saie. And I think that it's pretty similar to the Makeup Forever Reboot. I think you could get away with either of these. Both of these are really good if you want that second skin effect. They lie so closely on the skin that it doesn't necessarily look like you are wearing a lot of makeup. You know, they're not going to give you a ton of coverage, but just as that everyday kind of skin tint look, these give me that look with formulas that I think are really beautiful and sophisticated. I think really it's just about whatever like has a better shade match for you. For the no makeup folks out there, I think either of these would really deliver for you. Those are the ones that I reach for when I want that minimal, fresh look to my skin. Speaking of glow, one of my favorite foundations ever is from Kosas, the Kosas Revealer Foundation. The reason I love this is that it imparts this really beautiful creamy look to the skin. It looks just like very good quality skin amped up a little bit. You know, it's not the same kind of coverage as like a skin tint would be. It has more coverage, but it has all the qualities that I love in a really pretty skin tint. Just that creamy effect, the kind of dewy, hydrated look, that plump effect. I find that it looks so beautiful on the cheeks, especially where I have larger pores. This just kind of glides over them. It's really an absolutely impeccable foundation. I reach for it all the time, you know, especially, you know a foundation's good when you are in a rush and you're like, crap, I was supposed to be there 15 minutes ago. I reach for this. I know it's always going to look good. I highly recommend that one. One last foundation that's definitely a cult classic, the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk. This, I think, is perfect for folks that don't want a ton of coverage. They just want that beautified, perfected, silky look on their skin. This isn't super glowy. It does lean a touch more glowy. I think it's more natural, at least on my skin, but it's just for those folks that want that soft, perfected look. It just makes the quality of the skin look really pretty, and the makeup itself isn't very distracting. It doesn't take away from an entire look, and I do think that some overly glowy, glossy kind of skin tints and foundations, they can kind of take over the entire look of your makeup, and this is really not going to do that. Again, a very beautified natural finish. The Beauty Blender foundation and the Luminous Silk, these are pretty similar in my opinion, but let's talk about concealers, because concealers, you guys, if you knew how many concealers I've tried over the years, spent so much money. My number one favorite Holy Grail concealer is the Kosas Revealer Concealer. I have more hollowness under my eyes. I have a lot of upcoming videos on this topic, but essentially what the Kosas Revealer Concealer is able to do for me, it essentially makes it so I can both conceal my dark circles as well as kind of fill in any of the hollowness that I have under my eyes. And that is just something that most concealers can't do. Even if they cover up darkness, they, in the process, can kind of exaggerate the tear trough or the hollow that I have under my eyes. So overall, though it feels like everything is covered, the darkness is not there, my eyes still look dark because it is just exaggerating, you know, my anatomy, my face. The Kosas Revealer Concealer is hydrating, it's never drying or cakey, it's luminous, but it also just smooths and makes the hollowness less noticeable. And that is why it is the best concealer I have tried in my life. Both of these are second. I love these two concealers as well. And again, I just want to stress the fact that when I say I like a concealer, I just don't like most. Just don't. The Say Hydra Beam Concealer, these are beautiful. I find that they're just a little bit lighter coverage than the Kosas, but everything else feels pretty similar. They're a little bit more lightweight. So if you want creamier, more of a medium coverage, I would say go with the Kosas. If you want creamy, hydrating, but just a touch thinner, a touch less coverage, go with the Say. Say for every day is a great one. I reach for these all of the time. And lastly, the Armani Luminous Silk Concealer. This is beautiful also all over the face. When I'm in a rush to be able to take this, apply it under the eyes, all over the face, it just offers this, again, that subtle blur. If you don't want anything super dewy, this isn't as dewy as the other ones we've talked about. It is a little bit more of a light coverage concealer. It's more in line with, I think it's a little bit more coverage than the Say, but still less than the Kosas. And it just looks so soft and elegant under the eyes. It is a beautiful, beautiful formula. I actually like the concealer even more than the Luminous Silk foundation. And I really like that foundation. Now I will be talking about powders in a second, but I think we should get into bronzers and blushes and highlights. Let's first talk about some bronzers and contours. Most of you know, if you've been on my channel before, that I really love cream products, which essentially means if I mention any powder, bronzers, or blushes, they are really, really good because I just don't like a lot of them. But first of all, the Beautiful Skin Sun-Kissed Glow Bronzer from Charlotte Tilbury. I love this one because I just find it to kind of be a little bit of a cream to powder formula. It does slightly set down on the skin. It's a very natural looking bronze. I think that every brand has come out with this kind of cream bronzer at this point, and I'm telling you that if you have not tried this one, in my opinion, it is the best. It doesn't look heavy, it doesn't look chalky, it doesn't look muddy. It's just that smooth, natural looking bronze that isn't waxy and heavy on the skin. It is beautiful and it looks luxury. Soft Sculpt Shaping Sticks from Makeup by Mario. Notoriously, these go out of stock, but I gotta tell you all, some of the best one of the best products from Makeup by Mario, one of the launches that I've loved for the longest. These just create impeccable shape. I love the shade selection. I love light for a little bit of warmth and light medium just to give me a little chisel, though I don't think these are decidedly contour shades. It's more of a soft sculpt to the skin. So if you don't want to fuss with a bronzer and then a contour, I mean, I reach for these all of the time. Formula builds on itself so beautifully and the blend is there and they last. Never looks choppy or heavy on the skin. So these are a favorite. They're absolutely great. Oh, and I will say, even thinner than the Makeup by Mario are the match sticks from Fenty. Amber Suede and Mocha, I love both of them. Mocha, I just have a little bit more bronze. Amber Suede just gives me a little bit of shape, really softens on the skin. It's very lightweight. It's one of those creams that if you really don't like the feeling of cream on your skin, I think you will really enjoy these. And they're so thin that if you're used to dealing with really thin makeup, lightweight makeup, a product like this is just going to get along so much better. It's a texture that kind of is invisible on the skin. I really love when makeup is able to do that. For no makeup, I think this is especially beautiful. If you love a very thin serum foundation, you add a little bit of this onto the cheeks. I think it looks really, really pretty. Okay, I do have 3 bronzers that are powder specifically. So now the first item is one from the Sephora collection. It is their matte bronzer, the bronzed matte bronzer. Such a hidden gem at Sephora. The formula is very lightweight and buildable. If you find that too much bronzer can get very muddy on you very quickly, I highly suggest checking this out. It's actually pressed quite densely, which essentially just makes this more of a buildable, thin texture rather than some bronzers, which I really don't like bronzers that play this way, that are very creamy and have so much pigment. Immediately you put it onto the skin and there's just a blotch of bronzer. I feel like I almost have to start my makeup over when that happens. I just don't like that choppy bronzed look, and this is just really fuss-proof makeup. I also absolutely love the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Powder Bronzers. They're beautiful, lightweight on the skin, silky, just everything I would want. They're also beautiful if you'd like to set a cream bronzer, which I do in the summertime, but you could just stick a fluffy brush into this bronzer, put it all over the face, and it's going to look good every single time. Beautiful product in the shades. Again, the shades are so beautiful. If you are super fair though, I highly suggest checking out the Gucci bronzer in the shade 01. It definitely leans a little bit more pink. This is also a beautiful, beautiful bronzer. I was skeptical of this one. I definitely was, but I now feel like it's one of those luxury beauty items in my collection that I cherish. The packaging, everything feels vintage. It feels very luxe. And the formula, the silkiness of it, the buildability. To me, it's just such the antithesis of that thick powder bronzer that I think a lot of brands still come out with. To me, it's just very beautiful and lightweight. Such a beautiful, beautiful option. Oh, and one last contender for the bronzer category. This is a liquid bronzer. It's actually a bronzer stain, if you will. I've only mentioned it once before on my channel, but it is such an incredible, unique product. Think of it the way you would like a cheek stain, like the Benetton, except it is actually a bronzer gel that you can mix into moisturizer to give you like an overall bronzed look. Apply it with a brush, which is what I do, and it just creates this like bronzed look from within because it's so thin and stain-like on the skin. But by the way, it also manages to be incredibly easy to work with and long-lasting. It's one of the most unique products I've ever tried. And I actually think that for those of you that have been a fan of like the De-Bronzy serum, this to me is definitely better. super unique, lasts long on the skin, and I just am finding this to be especially useful going into the summer when I self-tan my entire body, but I don't self-tan my face. I can just add a little bit of this into my moisturizer and I get like a really nice glow that matches. It's a product that will be on hand and I'm going to be getting a lot of use out of this summer. So I definitely think going into the summer, this is something that some of you might find especially useful. Shall we talk about some cream blush? Cream blush has my heart. I think it always will. These I think are the best of the best at Sephora. This blush from Charlotte Tilbury, the Matte Beauty Blush Wands, this shade in particular, Pink Pop, I'm gonna add a little bit to my cheeks just to give you an idea of what this shade is like. It just gives you this beautiful, soft pop on the cheeks. It melts immediately into the skin. Formula just has this touch of a blur. I think when you purchase a luxury beauty item like this, you want it to be easy to work with, and this just delivers on that. It's this beautiful, softened, pinched cheek look. It's not overly dewy. It's just this really fresh, natural finish. If you love that soft, perfected makeup look, again, you don't want something with a ton of coverage, but you really enjoy the way a perfected makeup look comes together, I think that you will be a huge fan of this. I have just found myself reaching for this color a lot, especially just to add that extra pop on the cheeks. For spring, I just don't think you can beat it. And I love that just the texture of my skin looks better after I use these. Absolutely beautiful product. A blush I'm going to be using on repeat this summer. This is definitely one of my favorite bronzer blush kind of hybrid shades. It's the shade Spicy from Say, and it's their Dew Blush. This is so beautiful because you can just dot it all over the face, onto the forehead, onto the cheekbones, across the nose, and just blend it out, and you are left with just the most stunning, blushed, kind of sunburnt look that I find in the summer to be so effortless. It's sexy, it's youthful, it's a classic look in my opinion. I can wear like very minimal makeup, apply this on, and I just feel like I have that fresh, kind of undone summer effect, like that summery look to my skin. And again, it's every summer. Every summer I want that look, and this blush shade does it for me. But the formula itself is more of a gel formula with a really convenient doe foot applicator. It has a nice glow to it. As a whole, I just cannot wait for the summer. Cannot wait for the summer, guys. Now for me, nothing quite says summer like a good old cheek stain. For the winter, I usually lean towards Benetint from Benefit, but in the summer, I lean towards Cha Cha Tint. Essentially, this is a really pretty tangerine cheek and lip stain. If you love a tangerine blush, I personally do, you just want that pop of color, that life and vibrance to the cheeks. This looks so thin on the cheeks. It really looks like the color's just coming from within, and yet it's still super playful and bright. It's easy to work with. This actually has more creaminess and heft to it, opposed to like the Benetint is a little bit more liquidy. So you can apply this like on the nose, on the tops of the cheeks, and tap it out with fingers, and you're again left with just that flush that I find so pretty for this time of the year, you know, spring and summer. Lightweight, long lasting, and overall just a blush that I always reach for and am excited to use. Another blush that is newer to my collection are the Smashbox Sheer to Stay color tints. If you are a fan of that juicy cheek look, this is pretty similar to, you know, at the end of the day, it's pretty similar to like a cheek stain effect. But if you just prefer a formula that has a little bit more heft to it, you don't want it to be more of a runny formula, this is where I would guide you. they are stunning. The colors scream spring and summer. They're juicy, flattering, and I love that they just have this touch of a translucence to them that you can kind of see the skin, the quality of the skin coming through in this way that feels effortless and lightweight. Just a beautiful product. The terracotta shade, oof, on repeat this summer. Again, if you are a fan of that more lightweight kind of cream makeup, I think you will be a fan. And lastly, of course, the Rare Beauty liquid blushes. I've talked about these for so long on my channel, so I'm not going to stick here for too long. But I do think that they are an incredible bang for your buck. It's going to last you a long time. They have great pigmentation to them, obviously, but they also last really well. They want to stick to the skin. They don't want to mess with the other makeup products that you have on. And I do find that they have like a softening effect on the skin as well. So they are just, in general, a great product from Rare Beauty. Talk about some powder blushes. I have 4 here. My number 1 recommendation, if you have a more warm skin tone, the Dior Backstage Rosy Glow Blush in the coral shade specifically. This is so beautiful. It's like a little secret weapon to add a pop of color into your look when you're just feeling like, oh, my makeup looks just flat. I look a little sallow. Take it like onto the tops of the cheekbones, a little bit under the eyes, onto the nose, put a little bit of this into the crease, and all of a sudden, you look bright and refreshed. Gosh, this is such a beautiful product. And I know that the original Rosy Glow from Dior gets a lot of hype behind it. And I do think if you lean cooler, go with that one. But I gotta tell you, this is really special to me. And every time I apply it, it's just that really fresh blush, youthful look. It just pulls a look together when you know how to use it. And I think if you want those little makeup products to perfect your look, to give you, take your makeup routine from amazing to like the je ne sais quoi, something is different. That is this product for me. It's beautiful. Another product in a similar vein is the Clinique Pansy Pop. This is my favorite peach blush I've ever used. Makeup by Mario Creamy Peach. You can see it's pretty well loved. It is just the perfect brighten up the face peach shade that looks so thin and skin-like. It lasts so beautifully. I mean, apply bronzer all over, add some of this like peachy goodness on the cheeks, and it is the moment. Honestly, just the way it melts down into the skin and is so thin, it becomes a makeup product that people compliment your complexion and not necessarily the makeup. And that's what I love about it. I always feel extra pretty when I have this on. Let's talk about highlight. I have, 2 different cream highlights. My absolute favorite cream highlight is the Hollywood Beauty Light Wand from Charlotte Tilbury. I've loved it for years. And quite honestly, when I reach for a highlight, at least half the time it's this highlight because it's a lightweight liquid texture that sets down without it looking like a stripe on the skin, without it looking crackly, without it exaggerating texture. It just offers this true angelic cream liquid look. It really is a beautifying light wand on the skin that I think gets along with most of my makeup looks. I do think it's really, really hard to beat this formula just because it is blendable. It has the ability to set down on the skin so it's not like, your hair isn't sticking to it. Stunning on the skin. Again, it's not one of those products that's going to look crackly or exaggerate any texture. But if you want to go even more effortless and a little bit more no makeup, I think the Merit Day Glow Balms are probably a better bet for you. They are a great balmy highlight. I prefer these to something like the Glossier Halo Scope. I just think they're a little bit more thinner and lightweight. And if you're just like, Amanda, I need something that just looks like dewy skin, that is when I would lead you towards the ones from Merit, because they truly have that effect. 2 powder highlights, the Charlotte Tilbury Glow Glide Face Architects. If you prefer a powder highlight to a cream and you want to truly be able to shape your face with light, I think that this is a beautiful powder highlight to try. I see this being exceptional for wedding makeup. If you want a highlight that just adds that soft glow and photographs really well, but doesn't take over an entire look, it's really beautiful. And again, I just have found that these Face Architect highlights, they give me the ability to kind of shape and accentuate my cheekbones, you know, the tip of my nose, all of these areas where I just want that little bit of light reflection. It just looks like that natural light reflection, and it has this more generally blurred, softened, perfected kind of vibe rather than something more glossy and dewy. But if you want something a little bit more glassy, but you still want a powder, I think the Rare Beauty highlights are really great for that. Positive light highlighters, I believe they're called. Apply these with a finger if you haven't tried it before. They really kind of melt down into the skin in a beautiful way. I think they're just, in general, good for folks that want the effect of a cream highlight, but they just want it to be a powder. And finally, I have 2 face powders to share with you guys before we jump into eyes. So the Kosas Cloud Set. I've been recently getting back into this, and I think as an all-over face powder, it's just really good if you don't want something super drying on the skin. I don't use it a ton under my eyes. I will share with you guys the powder I do use under my eyes, but as far as that kind of perfecting, softening powder that doesn't feel really heavy, that doesn't feel like it's taking away necessarily from the glow of your makeup. I mean, it will take down shine a touch, but it won't take away from like the radiance necessarily. This is a beautiful item. Great for pinpoint powdering. If you just want to take a little bit onto the face in those areas where you could use a little bit more perfecting and you want your makeup to last a little bit longer, I do think the Kosas is a really good one. And next, the Givenchy Prism Libre Rose Powder. For under the eyes, this is pretty much the only powder that I use. I love the rose shade because I find that it's really nice and brightening under my eyes. It's not overly drying or crackly. And again, I'm just not a powder person on a typical day to set all over my face and under my eyes. But if I do want something that is going to help longevity, I want more of that smooth effect, this is what I reach for. And I think it's one of the best. Shall we venture forth into the eyes? I think we should. I think I want to start off with single shadows that I really enjoy. This is a new one. I haven't talked about this one yet on my channel. It is the Zari Eyes eyeshadow from Kulfi in the shade Bronze Brocade. So this is what's all over. I do have a topper like right in the middle of my eyes, but that bronzy, creamy shadow all over is this. These Kulfi shadows have such an interesting texture to them. They're actually quite wet when you feel them in the finger, but when you apply them on, they give a really creamy metallic effect that eventually does set down. So I think in general, if you love a cream shadow that offers a beautiful shine, but you want something that's going to last longer, this is really stunning for that. It has impeccable sheen on the eyes. I think this shade in general is really pretty. I would love for them to come out with more neutral shades, though they do have a pink shade as well. Blend super easily. I really like using my fingers just for the impact. As a one and done shadow, like out the door, this is definitely a new favorite. Typically go for something a little bit more warm as far as neutrals go. You guys know I typically like a cooler eye. I think this has a really nice balance. It's more warm, but it's not like orange brown. The other eyeshadow on my eyes is Space Cowboy from Urban Decay. Space Cowboy has definitely kind of gone viral. To me, it's like, it's about time because it is a product that for years I have used to add that glossy, wet effect that is so beautiful. Take this onto any eyeshadow in the middle of the eye and it just adds this other angelic wet sparkle that I find to just be unique. I prefer that look to a classic metallic. I think this is more multi-dimensional, and when you create a look with a wet glitter, to me it feels a little bit more youthful because gloss means moisture, and I really like for my eyes to look sparkly and pretty but look, you know, moisturized, not necessarily more of that flat metallic. So that's why I really love products like this. I also absolutely love Lithium for more of that one and done smoky wet shadow. Who knows, maybe Lithium will be the next to go viral. I love that one as well. But the savings event is a great time to be able to get these products. This has been a staple in my collection for a very, very long time. Some other staples in my collection are the Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize. The shade Exaggerize and Oyster Pearl are my favorite. It just depends on what you want to go for. If you want, again, more of a peachy, wet, kind of glossy looking cream shadow, I say go with Exaggerize. It will definitely get you there. And it's really pretty just for every day, but I had to offload a bunch of footage on my camera, so I had a moment to like take a breath and spruce up the makeup a little bit. But anyway, what I think I was saying is that Oyster Pearl is really good just for that everyday sophisticated kind of look. It's neutral enough that I think it would be pretty for work, but also effortless and defining enough to be nice for like a date night for a wedding. There's a classicness about Charlotte Tilbury makeup and Oyster Pearl in specific that I just find to be really timeless and beautiful. That's why I always go back and recommend. A great kind of bang for your buck product to possibly get during the savings event are the Danessa Myricks color fixes. The mattes and the metallics, I love both. Specifically though, I recommend these for folks that want something really long wearing, and Celebration is like the ultimate long wearing one and done kind of shadow. It's just a beautiful brown with these very soft kind of silvery glitters throughout. Perfect smoky eye. These are incredibly pigmented, and you also need to make sure to really keep the lid on tight or else they will dry out. I've loved them for a very long time. They're also multi-use. So if you get a matte shade, for example, that you like for like the cheeks, you can also use it on the lips, on the eyes. They're multifunctional. So a great bang for your buck. My hidden gem that I discovered last year that I feel like no one is still talking about them, but I just love them so much. They are the Stila Glisten and Glow shadows. Hear me out for a second. You take a matte shadow all over the eye into the crease, add these right onto the lid, and they are a liquid shadow. They have a little bit of translucence to them, but they are a liquid glitter shadow that just creates this glossy wet effect I find to be so perfect for summer. They have a bunch of different shades, but within each shade, they have those beautiful wet looking reflex. And because they're a liquid, they're not going to have any fallout that you might experience with other powder eyeshadows or like pressed glitters. Highly recommend these. I think that the soft translucence of them is what ultimately helps them to look more wet and glossy. Kitten Kaleidoscope is my favorite. It's just perfect for that peachy, wet, glossy eye. More people need to talk about these. Now, shall we talk about some eyeshadow sticks? If you want a beautiful matte formula, the Bobbi Brown Longwear Cream Shadow Sticks are where it's at. I think that they are stunning. My favorites are Cinnamon and Forest. Forest does have more of a metallic finish to it. I don't think all of the shades are amazing. Like some of the more lighter shimmery shades, I would personally pass on and go with something like Space Cowboy from Urban Decay or one of the lighter shades of the Glisten and Glow. But if you want an excellent, easy to blend, fuss-free matte cream shadow to be able to just add a little bit of a wing. You could draw it all over the eyes, blend it out with a crease brush and be like done. It's a really easy formula to work with and it lasts on the eyes and it builds really beautifully as well without getting crackly or feeling like the layers are drying at different times, which is sometimes something that a bad formulated cream shadow will do. Definitely one of those foolproof kind of fuss-free makeup items. And I think Bobbi Brown might even be coming out with dual sets, like sticks with 2 shades on them instead of 1. So I will leave a link to those down below as well if they have already launched. But if you want to go with a metallic, I think the KVD Dazzle sticks are better for more of a metallic finish. Flash Storm is my favorite. It is such a unique purple shade, so multidimensional, lasts really well on the eyes. And again, it's a metallic that doesn't look flat because it does have these more scattered glitters that I think just helps to make the overall effect to look a little bit more dewy and fresh. It's still like a very cool, interesting kind of smoky color, but if you want like a very classic champagne, Hail Surge is also a really great option. And I think what makes these great specifically is not just the way they look, but it's the way they perform and last on the eyes. Another hidden gem from the Sephora collection, and again, Sephora collection is 30% off throughout the duration of the savings event. The Sephora collection colorful eyeshadows, I have a lot of them because I think they're great. My favorite of the formulas are some of the more thin, like wet glossy looking shades. Twinkle Twinkle is a favorite as like a glittery top coat on any of my eyeshadow looks. It adds this really pretty, again, it just adds a really pretty twinkle to any of my eye looks. And I love to have products like that on hand for that extra layer of dimension. Choco Excess is a beautiful one and done soft brown with just, it leans a little bit more cool, but again, a very thin, almost translucent kind of brown with these beautiful wet sparkles throughout. I think Choco Excess and Twinkle Twinkle are my 2 favorites if I could recommend 2, with like the third runner up being a Pyramid, which is just this gorgeous green gold that is actually more of a creamy formula. Some of the formulas are more creamy like this, and then some of them are very thin. There's a lot to choose from. I really think that you cannot go wrong. But before we jump into eyeshadow palettes, let's say you want something that kind of does the work for you, but you don't want a full palette. That's when I would go with like a quad or a trio. Some of my favorite trios are the ones from Kaja. I always find that I get compliments on my eye looks when I'm wearing these. I don't have a ton of demos using these, so I do apologize about that, but I will tell you now, Orange Blossom has both an absolutely incredible one and done smoky shadow and a beautiful vibrant orange, like super incredible glitter, as well as a more wearable kind of warm champagne. So if you want like glitter toppers all in one, Orange Blossom is definitely a favorite. I think Spiked Ginger is also really pretty, and this has 2 mattes to really carve out a look, as well as one of their pretty glittery formulas to add on top. Toasted Caramel has an absolutely gorgeous, you guys can tell I love these like bronzy shades. All to say is that I don't think you can go wrong with these guys. Super pretty, easy for travel as well. You know, if you're doing a lot of traveling this summer and you just want a full look, I think these are really good for that. And lastly, before we get into like the full palettes, these 5 color couture from Dior, they're so good. I know people still go crazy about like the Tom Ford quads. There are a lot of quads in the luxury realm. I think that these are so overlooked. I think they're beautiful. The New Look palette is probably the best undone, smoky, wet, glossy, grungy, all of the words. Anything that screams smoldery and sexy, this is that palette for me. You have this gorgeous sparkly top coat to add onto the middle of the eye, this insane gunmetal, this more brown black shade that has a lot of dimension to it too. It's not just black. and then this gorgeous blackened plum in the middle. I mean, this palette is everything, and I've created one of my favorite looks I've ever created, including one of your guys' favorite looks you've seen me do with this palette. I think it's absolutely gorgeous, and especially if you love more cool tone palettes, I think that this is one of the best out there. Now, if you want something in this similar vein, but just maybe taken down a notch, a little bit more daytime, that's when I would go for the Soft Cashmere palette from Dior. There's another palette I want from Dior. I just want wearable shades. Like, this to me is absolutely beautiful, glossy, reflective, but just a touch lighter than some of the other metallics in the Dior. And that's when I would go for this. This shade over here is just the most perfect soft cashmere kind of shade. Like, the softness of it on the eyes, the smooth effect, it just looks so creamy and elegant. You have another wet kind of sparkly top coat to add onto your looks. This shade right in the middle is just such a classic taupey light brown. So, you know, I would say daytime, go for the Soft Cashmere, nighttime, go with the new look. They are beautiful. I really think you can't go wrong. Now, as far as like my full-size palettes, these are the three that I would recommend. Number one, the Anastasia Rose Metals palette has quickly become my favorite palette from Anastasia. There is just insane range within here. My favorite look to do is the one I'm about to show you guys. It's just the perfect smoky green. The mattes in here have really great pigment. I actually kind of overdid it with some of them in this demo. Able to get such a range within this palette. The shade Ashes and Rose Quartz are really soft and more satiny, and then you have more rich pigmented matte shades like Dune and Noble. You can get a really glamorous look with this palette. You can get something that's very soft and everyday. You can get something that's a little bit more of that undone kind of grungy effect. You have more saturated colors. You have some shades like Ashes that's a little bit more desaturated. So the balance of this palette, everything about it, I love. The color story is excellent. Great formula that lasts, and definitely my favorite palette from Anastasia. Another favorite is the Glam palette from Natasha Denona. It's my go-to palette for smoky, cool-toned mattes that blend themselves out. I feel more confident in my makeup skills when I use this because the product itself just works so well with you. They're just so easy to work with. If you love just a classic metallic formula, I think that is what you will find mostly in this palette. I do think the outer eyelid shade down here is actually quite wet looking, but I go for this palette when I just want the most consistent, beautiful mattes. If I'm doing a smoky liner, if I want something that feels matte, put together, really polished, I always go to this palette. I think that it's a beautiful one. And lastly, the Pat McGrath Divine Rose palette is a favorite as well. The mattes in here are also incredibly easy to work with. They feel almost like creams when they go on the eyes, just the way they build and blend. This insane glitter topper is a standout in the bunch for sure. I almost always use it when I use this palette, but it's actually a really diverse palette. You could certainly use, you know, these lighter taupes just as a one and done shade for every day. But you also get these little touches of Pat McGrath magic. And I think when you spend a lot of money on a palette, something that could be great for every day or for a really kind of fantastical, pretty wet, glossy, sparkly kind of look, I think that's what you are getting with this Pat McGrath palette, is a nice range, which is why it's my favorite Pat McGrath palette. Now, shall we jump into the lips? I have a lot of lip products, so I'm gonna kind of go a little faster First of all, the Rare Beauty tinted lip oils are not lip oils, but if you are looking for a really beautiful lip stain, I do think that they are great. They definitely go on with more shine and they have a ton of pigment to them, but the shine will dissipate and just leave this really pretty stain behind. A non-drying formula, a lot of great shades, so I definitely think that they are worth looking into. But if you want like a true blue oil, the Clarins lip oil, they reformulated it. I used to not like it, but I'm wearing this shade, the shade Chocolate, on my lips, and I really enjoy it. You do need to reapply. It really sinks into the lips, which is not my first choice as far as lip oils. I do like something with more cushion, and I'll talk about some of those products in a second. But if you prefer a thinner formula, one that definitely feels like it's sinking into the lips a little bit more readily, then I do think that this is a good one. And as far as like a berry brown, like a blackened cherry kind of shade, Chocolate is really pretty. And what you'll notice is that if you really like that kind of black cherry or black honey kind of shade that Clinique does, I have a lot of shades in that realm. So you definitely have some to choose from. Another shade in that realm is actually Mahogany from Dior. So if you want something that kind of is a little bit of a lip oil and a little bit of a lip gloss, the Dior Glow lip oils are a really great option for that look. Mahogany and Rosewood are both really pretty shades. I love the scent of Dior products. They do have a very slight plump to them. It's really not something that you're gonna notice much, but they're cushiony, they're pretty, they're just a little piece of luxury, and that's why I do really like these. And I think the shades in particular are unique. I'm definitely not as much of a fan of these kind of like bright peaches kind of shades or like really nude shades. These shades just are typically more my vibe. But if you want something with even more glossiness, I actually like the In Beauty glazes even more, their lip oils. This is the cherry shade. It smells like Twizzlers and it goes on with incredible juicy cherry shine. Stunning, especially if you love that water droplet effect look. Big fat doe foot applicator. Perfect formula in my opinion, just if you want something with more heft and grip. And I also will leave, I believe they're doing a set at Sephora, as well as the individual shades that you can pick up. But yeah, I think as far as lip oils go, this is one of my favorite formulas. I just love the grip and how it fills in all of the lines of my lips. But this Amicole is a newer favorite. This is their brown shade, and it, you know, if you love a cool brown, I highly suggest checking this out. It feels so plush on the lips. It's kind of like a liquid lip balm meets lip oil texture, which are often my favorite lip products. Really interested in some of the other shades now, but I think that this is also a great option, just depending on what shade is, you know, calling to you. The Amicole and In Beauty lip oils, both of these are, you know, neck and neck. They are excellent. This is a product I haven't talked much about, but it's from Laura Mercier. It's the Rouge Essential Lipsticks. In specific, Brune Natural is like the perfect cool tone 90s nude lip that doesn't lean too obviously 90s. Like, it's not going to take over a look. The formula just is so enveloping. It's not so creamy that you can kind of see the product sitting awkwardly on the lips. It actually sits really closely on the lips and has like a touch of a blur while also being clearly like a cream lipstick formula. I don't know why more people don't talk about these. This shade in particular is beautiful. I think that in general, I mean, the magnetic closure, everything about this is really jiving with me, and I would love to pick up some other shades during the savings event. God, it's just a freaking good one. And definitely make sure that you guys are subscribed if you want to see my Sephora savings event wish list upcoming. The Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lip Plump in Honeysuckle is another one of those kind of blackened cherry shades. This is the perfect kind of melting balm texture that feels grippy on the lips, like it's not going to move around. Definitely is one of those balm gloss hybrid kind of products. Personally, I say go with the shade Honeysuckle. You will not be disappointed. I think it's even prettier than some of the typical like pink nudie shades that this line has. It just adds this edge to your look. I think is a shade that will be flattering on everyone. If you want a formula in a similar vein, the Happy Kiss balms are also a great way to go. These are even stiffer than the ones from Tarte, but they still feel really balmy on the lips. They're not quite as shiny. It's more of just like that grippy balm that feels plush and hydrating on the lips, but still has this kind of softening, fill in the lines of the lips kind of effect. And that's why I love these kind of melting, balmy kind of formulas, and I do have an upcoming video on them. The Clinique Black Honey Gloss, I think, is even better than Clinique Black Honey, the Almost Lipstick. It is just such an incredible romantic shade. I love the formula. It has this really pretty kind of jelly translucence to it. Very flattering, and it just has that kind of pink brown undertone that I think will go with a lot of different looks as well. Though I have to say my all-time favorite lipstick formula, like a very sheer kind of classic lipstick formula, are the Merit Signature Lips. I can't even count the amount of times that I've recommended this product to you guys. They're just the best. Perfect for that not really trying lip color. You know, they're more on the sheer to buildable side. They have more of a satin finish. They're just that perfect kind of undone lip product that still has pretty structure and really nice shades. They're not too undone the way that some balmier products can be. They still have great pigmentation and an evenness and an elegance to them. One of the most insanely luxe, beautiful formulas that I have used, and I can't stress enough how unique and awesome the shades are in combination with this kind of formula. You know, especially when brands are coming out with these really silicone heavy full pigmentation formulas, these kind of take it back to that everyday elegant throw it in your purse and look chic while doing it kind of lipstick. The Sephora Collection Rouge Gel Lip Liner in the Nudist is one of my favorite lip liners to overline my lips. If you have very pale skin, I highly suggest checking it out. It's like a pink gray that really looks like a true shadow, lasts excellently on the lips. It's kind of like a little secret weapon product, and again, it's 30% off during the savings event. It's a really, really good one. Highly recommend this one. More glosses to kind of round things out. The Fenty Hot Chocolate Heat, this went viral and I did a whole video about it, but believe me, in my opinion at least, it is worth it. The shade, this kind of cool tone, brown berry, everything about the way it looks on the lips, insane shine, but not a really gloopy formula. It's definitely thinner than the original Gloss Bomb formula. It has this translucence that is, just makes my heart go pitter patter. A very slight plump as well, so it's not too spicy, but I do find that like my lips look bigger when I'm using it. I love hot chocolate, but Fenty Glow is beautiful. I really like the Fenty Heat lip plumper formula in general. And lastly, from Tom Ford, the Gloss Luxes. If you want kind of a liquid lip balm mixed with a lip oil kind of formula, look no further. It's luxe. I mean, obviously it's Tom Ford, but something about the way it applies, first of all, it smells like frickin' frosting, like straight frosting in the most luxurious, delicious way, but it just adds an insane amount of shine and just envelops the lips and makes them look so youthful and healthy that even when my lips are not doing well, I can apply this and it just looks incredible. It's one of the only higher pigment glosses that I actually like because I don't find that it looks too creamy on the lips in the sense of like the differentiation between my actual lip color and this is awkward looking. I'll add a little bit on here for you guys to see. I mean, great pigment. But look at that juicy shine and color. Ugh. Add a little lip liner in this gloss and like your lips will look so plush and really healthy. It's a luxe one, and I do have my eye on another shade, but ugh, it's so good. This is the shade Phantom, by the way. Let's talk a couple odds and ends. So the Sephora Pro 15 brush as well as the Pro 18 are my favorite brushes within the Sephora collection line. You guys ask me about brushes all the time, and those are my two favorites. The Sephora Pro 18 for more detail work. It's like a slightly fluffier version of a pencil brush, so great for cream shadow. But I also love the Pro 15 brush because it lays down color in a really even way, and then you can kind of prop it up on its side and go into the crease really easily. Gorgeous, gorgeous brushes. Two mascaras. One, the Tower 28 Mike Waves mascara. Like, if you get one mascara, make it this one. I myself will be picking up multiples of it because it holds an insane curl, really buildable, so you can get gorgeous defined volume or just a very natural look. And it's also so black that it does an incredible job of like defining the lashes. God, it's one of the best mascaras I've used in my life, and I just cannot get enough of it. I really wasn't expecting so much from this mascara, but I just can't put it down. If you want something just a touch more natural, like kind of a step down from the Tower 28, the Lancome Lashy Doll is probably a better bet. I love this one just for like the kind of fanned out fluttery look it gives my lashes. Really, really beautiful one as well. And lastly, the Shiseido eyelash curler. Please, if you guys have not invested in an eyelash curler yet, a really good one, this is a great one that will hold a curl, not tug and pull on your lashes. And in general, when you use an eyelash curler, it really opens up the eyes and just makes you look more awake. It's one of my favorite techniques to use, especially when I'm feeling a little bit, you know, tired. Just a quick lash curl really, really opens up the eyes, and a good quality one is where I will always lead you guys to, because you don't want to go with a rinky-dink one. These are your eyes, as we know. Let's get into some kind of hair care products. The Wow, the Dream Coat from Color Wow really works, guys. It is perfect for that humidity-proof hair that gives you that glossy shine without it feeling oily. Going into summer, I'm just telling you, this is going to be right at the top of my list as far as like summer hair product recommendations. And in general, like if I was creating a basket for someone of like my summer essentials, this is definitely it, because humidity in me in the summer, I mean, Baltimore humidity, guys, it's not great. This will keep the hair really shiny, and it just seals all of the strands to make them more humidity proof. It is a really, really good one. The Way Detox Shampoo is a favorite of mine as well. This is my first bottle, and I've barely gone through it just because you need so little. But again, to keep the hair super clean in the summer, and I've been actually exercising a lot more lately, keeping the scalp clean and keeping your hair clean and removing that buildup is really important. So using this kind of like, for me, every 3 washes really makes sure that my scalp is doing well and my hair isn't building up with product. Such an important product in my routine, and I've noticed a difference. My hair doesn't feel as weighed down when I'm using it consistently. So that is a great shampoo. Speaking of which, the K18 Leave-In Molecular Repair Hair Mask is great for damage specifically. If you're dealing with a lot of damage and you want to repair the bonds in your hair, this is where I would lead you. You know, a hair oil like the Gizu Honey Hair Oil, which I also love. I love this one for thick hair. I'll talk about in a second, but this isn't necessarily going to reform the structure of the hair. This will help to actually repair it long term. It's expensive, but I have seen a difference in my hair with this. So I do think it's worth it. And if you're going to pick it up, you know, the savings event is a nice time to do that. The Yuzu hair oil, this is just a little travel size because you need so little. I already went through like one of the little minis and that one lasted me long enough, but it just adds this silkiness to your hair. Just this ultra shiny enveloped, like completely coats the hair strand and gives you this really shiny, like honey kind of look, and it's beautiful. Not for very thin hair. If you have thicker hair, I would say this would be better for you, or if you have thin hair, you really only need a little. But I just think it's great, especially going into summer, and great for winter hair too. If your hair is just naturally drier, this is great for dry hair. A mist that I just have not been able to get over recently is the Plump and Juicy mist from Kosas. It just, I'll show you guys, really all-encompassing kind of mist, very fine. I put it on before makeup, I put it on after makeup, I put it on throughout the day if my skin is feeling dry. It really hydrates and plumps up the skin immediately, and I feel like my skin does better while I'm using it. And that's why I don't just consider this to be like a makeup prep item. I notice my skin does well over time when I am using it. It has peptides, it has vegan collagen, so all of these do a really good job of kind of plumping up the skin and retaining that hydration, which is why I just feel like my skin really enjoys it. Like whenever I take this out, my skin's happy. The Peace Out Acne Patches are another fan favorite of mine. They're just the best, guys. As far as pimple patches go, they are my top pick because they hold a lot of gunk. They actually stay where you put them, and they do a better job of healing because they're actually, like, there's actives in here. There's vitamin A, there's aloe, so you're kind of healing the breakout while also kind of draining it in some instances and protecting it. It's just, I always have them on hand because they are so well loved on my face when I'm having a flare-up of any acne. The Clarins Lift Mask, the V Facial Intensive Wrap Mask. This blew my mind. If you are dealing with puffiness in the morning or you need a mask to take your skin to the next level before like a special occasion, this just like my skin, I feel like my neck too, like it lifts everything up and makes me look so awake and depuffed. I am so happy to have this in my routine, especially when I just feel like my skin needs that extra bit of help. It needs to look a little bit more plumped up and lifted, and this really performs. It's kind of crazy. I don't really know how it does it, honestly. Lastly, for skincare, the High Roller from Topicals, the Ingrown Tonic, especially going into summer, I always like to recommend this to you guys because, listen, we all get bumps. I get them on my armpits, especially for some reason. Razor bumps are like the bane of my existence, and this is just the easiest way to treat them. It's a roller ball. I actually find it helps, like it works as a deodorant as well. Like I feel like I'm fresher when I'm using this. It does have salicylic acid, glycolic acid, niacinamide, and zinc PCA in here, but I will tell you one thing it certainly does, it clears up any bumps that I have, like really quickly. And it's just so easy to throw into my bag. I use it almost every time I shave. Side note, mist. Going into summer, a good setting mist is going to make a big difference. The Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray, this is like, it will lock and it definitely does slightly mattify your skin. But I find that my makeup lasts so much longer when I use this. So I will be repurchasing this during the savings event because it is bomb. Then the Urban Decay All Nighter Ultra Glow Long Lasting Makeup Setting Spray. This is just a touch glowier. So touch more mattifying, touch more glowy. Both will really help to make your makeup last. Before we get into fragrance, one nail product that I've been using constantly on my nails is the Dior Nail Glow. It is essentially like their French manicure in a bottle. It's like a pinky jelly glossy top coat, and I put like 3 layers on and my nails just look naturally brighter, illuminated. I don't like to fuss too much with a full pigment nail polish, and this has just been treating me so well. I feel like my nails are healing, they look stronger, they feel stronger, and in the process, they look cleaner and more polished because it has that pink tint to it. Like, they just look more put together with very little effort, which is what I really like about it. I've been trying to find some like affordable dupes to it, and I've not had great luck. I'm just gonna throw it out there. This is really an excellent product. A couple of fragrance favorites. Dior Hypnotic Poison is always going to be a favorite because it's just like that gorgeous like a vanilla root beer scent to me. It's a classic for me and I use it all the time, in the summer especially at night. But for all around, I gotta tell you, Dead Cool Taunt is so sexy and so effortless. I think it's their best seller, but it's just this beautiful musky scent that's so warm and close. My other favorite in this vein is Missing Person from Fleur. I don't know where my travel size is right now, which is a little bit of a bummer. If you want something that's more laundry, I would go with Fleur Missing Person. If you want something a little bit more like gritty, I would say go with Taunt. Taunt is very, very sexy and unique in my opinion. Dead Cool Milk is also a favorite of mine. This is just the travel size. To me, it just adds like a milky note to any of your fragrances, which I personally like, just because sometimes if you want to kind of round out a fragrance, you want it to just be a touch softer. That's what Milk does. You know, if you just feel like, oh, it's a little bit sharper than I want, a spray of this and you'll be good to go. Or even on its own, it's like you don't even know that you're wearing a fragrance necessarily. Someone's just gonna be like, ooh, they just smell naturally that good. Like it's almost just like a subconscious thing, I think. And lastly, Skylar Coconut Cove. In the summertime, it's just my perfect coconutty scent. It's very warm, but also has that kind of beachy, tropical note to it. It's sweet, but also very playful and has this kind of overall great vacation vibe that is just, it just brings me back and makes me happy. And that, my friends, are all of the products I would recommend during the Sephora Savings event. Again, I am going to leave links down below to all of the products I mentioned today. If you appreciated the video, if you appreciated all of the demos, using any of the links down below does help to support my channel. So thank you so, so much if you do decide to do that. I will leave, again, all of the savings event details down below for your reference. Thanks again to Sephora for sponsoring this video. Thank you to you guys for being here, and I will see you in my next one.